Come, all you moonshiners, if you want to hear.
Welcome back to Barley and Hops. I'm George, the channel that's daring, constantly daring to unlock the mysteries of home distilling. This video series is a benefit for if you're a beginner, novice, or expert. It makes no difference because we're going to cover as much as we possibly can. Oh, and we'll bring up some things that you forgot, you missed, you overlooked, some things that maybe you didn't know. Now, for those of you who have been with us for quite a while, you'll notice the whiteboard. Yeah, I was reading a comment and someone mentioned that and said it would be nice to have something. So, yeah, a great idea. I was thinking about that and I was like, why not? Yeah, we'll just throw the whiteboard up and we'll do some numbers here just a little bit. Where we're at right now, just a recap. We started off with 6 pounds of corn, 5 pounds of 2-row barley, and probably about 6 gallons or so of water. And I brought that up just a little bit, probably just a little bit higher than that. Now, we've gelatinized the corn. Well, first we ground it, to pea size. We gelatinized that corn because we took this as a step-by-step process. So someone can follow, you can just follow right along and do the same thing, and hopefully your results are similar or exactly the same. Once we've done that, we're in the cooker. This is our mash tun, and remember we had that false bottom that we put in about somewhere around here, and we allowed that to cook for the first time we did for gelatinization. I let it cook for like 2 hours or so. I got a great gelatinization. Remember, it turned into a porridgey, mashy, really soft corn. So it exposed and made all those starches available. Then I added the 2-row barley. And I did that once the temperature started to drop back down, and I allowed that to sit in there between, yeah, I know I get repetitive, 142 to 162 Fahrenheit, because that's when your amylase is active. And we allowed that to sit, and I actually let that sit since last night because this thing is insulated, and it maintained that temperature all the way up through this morning. So I got full starch conversion, and I'm ready to go. So what's my next step? Yeah, I put this in the fermenter. But before I get there, my next step right now is to explain, well, George, why do you always repeat everything? Well, because there are people out there that are just like me. I get to a video and I fast forward till I get to the part that I really want to watch. I know what happens, and that's quite all right. Because trust me, you'll come back looking for some more of those tidbits that I may mention later that I refer to from the. But what I want to do is make sure that I constantly hit those points that are important. So I'll put them in the front, I'll put them in the middle, I'll say them again at the end. So I'm repetitive for that reason, just to kind of drive that point home. Remember the 3-legged stool? Yeah, ingredients, process, and equipment. Okay, I've got my wide mouth fermenters. Now I've got 2 of them out here. I believe this is a 23 liter. It's less than 5 gallons, but it's a 23 liter. And I've got this because I got a feeling that I'm going to have enough of this mash once I start to drain, and I sparge with some clear water to rinse out all those fermentable sugars from that grain bed. I got a feeling I'm going to have more than this will hold, so I got my second one sitting here waiting. You can't just wait to see how we attach our own homemade airlock. It's one of those simple things that, is there another way to do this? Yeah, absolutely. So let me get this started. And while we're doing that, what I did was I attached a rubber chemical resistant hose to the end of this. And all I've got to do is turn that on. There she goes. It's starting to drain. Let me hold that up so you can see that. It's draining very well. So my false bottom is holding up, and all that liquid is going to drain through that. Incidentally, if you've got something like this, sort of like the old coffee pot, you know that you can remove the top of this and pull these out, the guts of this out, because it's a one piece. Once you unscrew it, it just pulls right out, because a lot of times you'll clean this and you'll have residue left in this exit port. You just got to put a brush and kind of clean that out. And, oh, by the way, if this gets stopped up, I'll just open it up. It won't overflow. It'll just continue to run out. Don't worry about that. So I'm going to let this go ahead and finish draining, and we shall return. When we do, I should have my fermenters full, and we are ready to go to the next step. Voila. We're at this point. I've got everything is drained out of here, and it's left my bed. Matter of fact, we'll do a close-up here in a few minutes. But what I have down on the floor is I have my liquid all the way up to this level, which is quite substantial. Before I've done any rinse, what I thought I would do is I would measure at this point. And yes, it's important to understand there are two items that are really kind of critical. I'm trying to think, is it possible to get away without these? Yeah, probably. It's just you have no idea what your outcome's going to be or where you're at. So I guess you could. It's like I guess you could drive a car without a speedometer, but you'd never know anything. So it's like a hit or miss proposition. Yeah, but these are the two things that you really should have. One of them is a triple scale beer and wine hydrometer. It's just a standard hydrometer. Oh, and I got to make sure I get these two separate because people confuse these a lot. This is known as a proof and trail hydrometer, only for distilled spirits after it comes out of the still. So this is before the still, this is after the still. This is fermentation only, this is distillation only. Oh, let me show you something because this is phenomenal. The scale on here starts at 1.000, and that's the level of just regular water. Water with nothing in it, no sugars, no fermentable sugars at all. This thing will float all the way up here to the 0 point. Okay? Now we know that alcohol is thinner than water. So if we drop this into a distilled spirit, what would happen to this? Think about that. It's lighter or the thinner, so this would just sink and it would disappear. That's your first indication that you've got the wrong scale, because it will just disappear. What happens is this hydrometer, the proof and trail hydrometer, is graduated and weighted differently. And it actually, water, it floats all the way down here. This is where the 0 mark is, all the way at the bottom of this. So this 0 mark really corresponds to this 0 mark. And so you can see this hydrometer only goes to this point. This hydrometer picks up from this point and continues to go. So as your liquid becomes less dense and or more fluid, and ethanol has more ethanol as opposed to water, this will float a little lower and a little lower, and that will give you your proof that you just read off of the proof and trail hydrometer. See how easy that is. So let's not confuse those. Many, many times, I know it's going to happen again. I have people write in and want to know why this disappears and this one floats way up. Look at both of them. They're both different. Okay. Oh, and one last thing is, I find this to be, this is just a point of interest for you. If you're going to have one, have 2 of each. For some reason, these got a mind of their own. And if you've only got one, and you lay it down on the bench somewhere, or at some point in time you put it down, it's going to take off and roll, hit the floor, break, and you're out. Then you have to wait for a couple of days to get another one. But for some reason, if you've got 2 of them, that never happens. You'll have 2 of them forever. If you've got one, you'll have it for a short period of time. The same thing with the beer and wine hydrometer. All right, I'm going to drop this in here. We're going to measure this. This is what's going to be the interesting aspect of what just happened in our mash tun. And we're floating at, and I'm reading this scale. Let me see if I can hold this up so you can see it. I'm reading it at 1.0, where we go, 4. and I know it's probably not that easy for you to see that, but it's actually floating around on this scale adjacent to the 1.04244 line. So that tells me that it's floating here, which is pretty darn good. What did I tell you before? Is that if it was just water, it would be floating up here. But it's a little more dense, so it's floating a little bit higher. If you rotate that scale over, there's a scale in here called approximate, I got to underline, approximate potential alcohol by volume. So it kind of does the math for you. So what I can discern from that is that before I've added anything else to this, just the corn and the barley together that comes out, I've got just about, just a little bit over, about 5.5, almost 6% alcohol by volume in that fermenter. Yeah, we're gonna go through numbers here in just a few minutes, but just wanted to get that out of the way. So at this point, I know that I can actually ferment that. It would probably ferment pretty rapid, and then I could distill it, and 5% of that is going to be my alcohol. Isn't that something? Now remember, we're going to work on gravity points per pound per gallon. So that's equivalent to about almost a pound of sugar per gallon. Because a pound of sugar per gallon is just about 46 gravity points. Yeah, we call them gravity points. Between 1 and 1.046 would be 46 gravity points. So that's equivalent to us having had put about 4 pounds of sugar is what we've got out of that corn and barley. That's what we converted, and that's what we've got to work with. We shall return. I'll finish this up. Yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start sparging. I know you don't want to just sit here and watch this happen, so I'll go away and get this done, and then we'll just come back after I've finished all the sparge and I can get things cleaned up around here. But I'll just start by just pouring this clear water across that grain bed. Oh yeah, I promised to show you that too. This is our grain bed. And all we got to do now is just pour water across here so all of those fermentable sugars sink. Sweet. Tastes like corn. This is the results of what we just went through. Okay, so here's sort of like the next logical step is collecting it into our fermenters. And so I've got, this is the original, the initial that I drew out of there. And remember that was at 1.04, we're going to say 0.42. I could go 4.4, but 1.042 is what my original gravity would be on this one. Now this one, of course, is going to be a little bit less, and that's because a lot of this is a result of the sparge water that I ran through all those grains, and I've still got a lot of that left too. So what have I got here? I've got one that's going to be my corn mash, and I'm going to run this one. We're going to work on the original gravity first, but this is going to be my corn mash, and this is just going to be a sort of a haphazard put together type, because I don't have enough of the original grain here as I do here. You get that? Let me move this stuff out of the way. Let's do some real quick numbers. All right, time for a few numbers. Okay, just sort of like the very basics in the beginnings. This is not hydrometer 101, but it kind of sort of is in a way. So which one of these am I going to use? Will I use the triple scale beer and wine, or do I use the proof and trail? Yeah, you're right. I use the triple scale beer and wine hydrometer. Let me put this one down. Now, my original gravity, OG, or SG, starting gravity, is, we're going to use it, yeah, OG. OG is 1.042. That's what I have for an original gravity. We mentioned this earlier. Gravity points per pound per gallon. This is an acronym. And another acronym I need is a good marker. Gravity points per pound per gallon. And usually we just call that GPPG. I got a bunch of P's in there. Gravity points per pound per gallon. What does that really represent? There's a chart, and that represents what's your anticipated gravity points that you'd receive if you used 1 pound of that in 1 gallon of water. How much would that original gravity change from just clear water to a final original gravity if you used only 1 pound of that? As an example, we have a bag here. This is 4 pounds of sugar. And we mentioned this earlier. What's your gravity points per pound per gallon for sugar? On average, it's right at about 46. 46 gravity points per pound per gallon. So if I used, let's say, just for sake of argument, if I used, oh yeah, come on marker, 4 gallons of water, and I put in that 4 gallons of water 4 pounds, what would the resulting specific gravity or original gravity of that liquid be? 4 into 4, I get 46 per pound per gallon. I would have 46 gravity points. So my hydrometer would read 1.046. And that's within reason, okay? 1.046. Right now I'm at 1.042. My goal is to go to 1.060, 1.065. And if I look on my scale, my result is going to be, probably about 9% alcohol by volume. Let's go to 1.070. 1.070 will give me right at 9. Go to 1.080, just a little bit above 10%, which means that in that 4 gallons, 10% of that, 0.4 gallons, yeah, that would be right, yeah, would be alcohol. So how do I get from 0.042 and here, this is what I want. I want it to be 1.0. What did we say? We said 70. No, we'll go to 80. 0.080. A lot of times in former videos, I always said that my goal was always 1.090. It can be whatever you want it to be, as long as you're doing your own math and you're trying to figure out what your volume is going to be on the other end. So we'll stick with 1.080. To get to 1.080, I'm going to need at least another 38 gravity points. So if I've got 4 gallons in there and I want 38 gravity points, that's just going to be shy of 4 pounds of sugar. So that's what I'll add to that. And in the next step, we'll mix that up, get it prepared, we'll pitch yeast, talk about that, and then we'll put an airlock on it. For all of you out there, you know the routine. Happy distilling.